Welcome everyone to Mackin's Storyteller Spotlight. We're so excited you're here. My name is Kaya Heisey. I am from Mackin. We host and sponsor Storyteller Spotlight. Today we're super excited to have Christina Soontornvat with us to tell us a little bit about her new book, The Squad, and show us a little bit about her process to make a graphic novel. Our special thanks to Scholastic, who is helping us make this possible today. I want everyone who's driving, who's writing in the questions to go find the Q&A option because that is how we will put our questions in for Christina. So certainly use the chat, tell her anything you want in the chat, talk to each other in the chat, but for your questions, put them in the Q&A. If you have already written your questions with your class, go ahead and put them all in. That's completely fine. Or put them in one by one as they come up. If you want to tell us the school name, the class name, the student name, all of that is great. If you take any pictures of your students watching and participating today, we love to see those. So if you put them online, please tag Mackin so we can see them. And just a quick pitch for next month in January, we have, January 8th, we have Nick Bruhl, who's joining us, and then January 21st, we have Avi, who's joining us. So go to mackin.com, you can get more information about that. If you're subscribed to our emails, you'll get lots of info. Okay, we are so excited to welcome Christina Soontornvat. Christina is the award-winning author of over 20 books for children of all ages. Her picture books include The Ramble Shamble Children, To Change a Planet. She is also the author of the beloved Diary of an Ice Princess chapter book series and the best-selling graphic novel, The Tryout. Christina has received 3 Newbery Honor Awards for her books for middle grade readers. Christina grew up behind the counter of her parents' Thai restaurant in a small Texas town with her nose stuck in a book. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much, Kaya. Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh my gosh. I love looking at the chat and seeing how many kids are tuning in from all over the US and some from all over the world. This is so cool. So my name is Christina Soontornvat, and I am tuning in from my house in Tennessee. So our family just moved from Texas to Tennessee. I did grow up in Texas. I see there's a lot of kids from Texas that are tuning in, and I'm so glad to see you there. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my newest book, which is a graphic novel, and it's called The Squad. And The Squad is a sequel to my first graphic novel, which is called The Tryout. So this is a graphic novel memoir. And a memoir is a story that's based on your life. So if you think memoir and you think memory, it's based on somebody's memories. So these are my memories of growing up, of being in the 7th grade and when I tried out for cheerleader. And when I was in 7th grade, if you wanted to be a cheerleader, you had to try out in front of your whole school. You had to perform in front of them, and then the kids voted on whether or not you got to be on the squad. So like, talk about terrifying. It was the most terrifying thing I ever did. and so that was The Tryout. And I know a lot of you have read that book. And so today I'm excited to talk to you about The Squad. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you a few pictures, because the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of how a graphic novel gets made. So I know there's so many graphic novel lovers out there, and you know that the art is so much of the story. I mean, you could never tell this story without the art and the illustration. So I'm so lucky that I work with this incredible illustrator named Joanna Kakeo, who does all of the art in The Squad, and I'm going to show you how we do that together. So the thing you have to know about The Squad is that I told you that the tryout takes place in 7th grade. Well, The Squad takes place in the 8th grade, okay? So Christina is back. I'm back. My friends are back. My best friend Megan is back in the story. My friend Leanne. And in 8th grade, I had like everything going great. I had these awesome friends. I had great teachers, great classes. It was all smooth. And then a major thing happened in my life that kind of flipped my whole world upside down. And that is that my parents told me that they were going to get divorced. Actually, they didn't tell me. I overheard them talking about it. That's how I found out, is that I overheard them. And so, oh my gosh, talk about an emotional roller coaster, right? Like I was feeling upset, sad, anxious, nervous, angry, scared, like confused, all of these things. And it took me a long time to realize that I needed to tell people how I was feeling. So if you read the squad, you're going to find out that like I tried to hide my feelings a lot, which was not the right thing to do. So anyway, the squad is full of emotional ups and downs, okay? Because it's middle school and there are emotional ups and downs anyway. Now, the other thing you have to know about me in the 8th grade is that I had my first big crush, okay? Yes, it's true. My first real serious crush. His name was Andy. All right. His name was Andy. and Andy was, his mom was really good friends with my mom. So I'm going to show you a scene from the squad where I go over to Andy's house. Andy's mom has invited me and my mom over to their house for Easter. Okay. Now, the thing that you have to know about a graphic novel is that every rectangle in the graphic novel, okay, every piece of the graphic novel, we call this a panel, all right? So when I'm writing the graphic novel, I'm going to show you what my writing looks like. I have to write what happens in the panel. Sometimes I write specific directions for Joanna. So here, this is a scene from when Christina goes into Andy's room at his house for the first time. So you can see it says panel 1. Christina steps into Andy's room, wide-eyed, but trying to keep it chill. And then I have to write what Christina's thinking. So it says Christina is thinking, I can't believe I'm in Andy Derman's room. There's his desk. And then look, it says panel 2. And I don't write anything there. I just leave it blank for Joanna to do. And Christina thinks, that's his bed. Leanne and Megan would freak out right now. And then in panel 3, his deodorant. Okay? Okay, so can you envision this scene? Can you imagine what's going on in this scene? Imagine Christina is going into Andy's room and she's seeing all these things. Okay, now I'm going to show you what Joanna does, because Joanna also uses her imagination. And then the first thing she does is she creates a sketch of the scene. So here you're seeing on the left-hand side of the page, you see Christina and her mom show up at Andy's house, and Andy's mom comes to the door and welcomes them in. And then Andy says, like, you know, this is my room. He's showing Christina around. And then on the right-hand side, you see what I was writing. Okay. There's Christina, wide-eyed, but trying to keep it chill. And she thinks, I can't believe I'm in Andy Derman's room. There's his desk. That's his bed. Leanne and Megan would freak out right now. And then, the deodorant. Okay, so that's Joanna's sketch. This is her first version, and she's going to make multiple versions. Okay, we have to go through it multiple times. So the next thing that she does is she does the ink drawings. So you can see the lines are getting more detailed. She's getting more final. It's more polished, right? And then a completely different person does the color. And a completely different person does all of the words and the bubbles and the speech bubbles and everything. So, oh my gosh, when you add the color, it really comes to life, right? So look here. So it goes from the sketch to the ink drawings to the final color. Oh my gosh. And that has to happen on every single page. For 260 something pages, I think, is the squad. So you can see why when we make a graphic novel, it takes 2 years minimum to make the graphic novel. So it's so much work. And then you guys read it in like, I bet you can read it in one day, but you can read it again and again, right? So now you see just a little bit of a sneak peek into what it takes to make a graphic novel, and the process. So now I'm gonna have Kaya come back, and I think we've got some questions, and she's gonna let me know what questions people are asking.
We do have questions. A reminder to put your questions into the Q&A section for us. All right, here's our first question, Christina. From the second grade in Green Valley, Missouri, how old were you when you first started writing?
Okay, so that's a great question. I always loved to write. When I was a kid, I wrote lots of stuff. I kept a journal. I would write like poems, and I would draw, and I would make up stuff, but I did not think about being an author. Like, so you talk to some authors and they will say they always wanted to be an author and they were making books when they were kids, but I was not like that. I didn't know that that a regular person could be an author. I thought, oh, authors are these special people who live like in New York City, and I lived in Texas. And so I didn't start writing my first book until I was 30. So I was a grown up before I realized, like, hey, I have stories to tell. I could be an author too. So I waited a long time. Good question.
Here's your next question. What is your biggest inspiration when you're writing? How do you get inspired to write your books?
Okay. I mean, I guess my biggest inspiration now, like now that I've made books and that I go out and I meet kids and I like talk to kids like you all, and I hear like, oh my gosh, I loved reading this book, or I stayed up late to finish your book, or I read it in one day. Or sometimes kids will tell me, your book was the first book I read all by myself. Just things like that. Like that's such an inspiration, because I just love telling stories, and I love when I'm reading, when I have a book and I can't put it down and I just get completely lost in the book. I love that more than anything. So the thought that like there are kids out there who are going to do that with something I'm coming up with, that's like such an inspiration for me.
Since you didn't start writing your first book till you were 30, what did you do before that?
Oh, good question. Well, I have had lots of jobs, but the job I had the longest, and a job that I loved, is that I worked in science museums. So when I went to college, I studied engineering. I became a mechanical engineer. So I have always loved math and science, and I just thought, okay, that's going to be my job. And then when I got out of college, I started volunteering at a museum, and I loved that. It was like the coolest place you could ever be. And I ended up getting a job there. So I worked in a science museum for 10 years, and I would like design the exhibits and the programs, and I would lead school tours and stuff like that. So I was always kind of like around kids. I just really like kids are cooler than grown-ups. Like working with kids is kind of the best. So that's what I did before.
That was from Ahmad. I forgot to say that, from Pennsylvania. Glorianne, from Texas wants to know what part of Texas you're from.
The town that I grew up in is called Weatherford, Texas, and it's close to Fort Worth and Dallas. But we lived in Austin, Texas before we moved to Tennessee.
Aiden wants to know why your book is called The Squad.
Oh, coming up with titles. That's such a good question. So the squad, it's sort of a play on cheerleading, because guess what? In the squad, Christina is going to try out for cheerleader again. Yes, we tried out like, every year. If you wanted to make the squad, you have to try out every year. So sort of about cheerleading, but it's also about like your squad, like your people, like your friends and your family and the people that you can rely on. And so like when my parents were getting divorced, that was my family squad was kind of breaking up, and we had to figure out how to work together and be together as this new kind of a family. Good question.
Uh, G asks, why did you start writing graphic novels instead of regular chapter books?
Yes, that's such a good question. So, I never planned to write graphic novels, honestly. I have lots of chapter books. Like one of my chapter books I have right here. It's called A Wish in the Dark. So this is how I got started. I started writing novels, and I still write novels. I love writing just words. But then I had kids of my own. So I have two daughters, and now they're in sixth grade and ninth grade. But when they were a little bit younger, they read so many graphic novels. So we had like, all these stacks of graphic novels around the house. And I started reading them too and really liking them. And it made me realize there's some stories that are so much better told when you have pictures to go with them. In the tryout, when I was thinking about the tryout, and I was thinking, oh, I would like to write about the cheerleading tryout. Look at this part in the tryout. They're all trying to learn how to jump, right? Do these cheerleading jumps. And if I would write that out, I feel like it would be boring. But you just look at the pictures. Look, there's no words in these pictures, and you can tell exactly what's going on. And like, it's just so dynamic and interesting. So, I mean, a cheerleading book, I was like, it has to be a graphic novel.
We have a follow-up about A Wish in the Dark. Harrison in sixth grade asks, where did you get the idea for A Wish in the Dark, and is that a real place?
Great question. So, A Wish in the Dark it's a twist on my favorite novel, one of my favorite novels. It's called Les Miserables. So it's a French novel, and they made it into a musical. If any of you like musicals out there, you probably know Les Mis. So, A Wish in the Dark, it's about a boy who's born in a prison, and he one day escapes from the prison, and he runs away, and he goes into hiding, and he thinks he's going to be in hiding forever and no one will ever find him. And then one day the prison warden's daughter goes and finds him, like she recognizes him while he's hiding out, and she becomes determined to track him down, like she's going to turn him back into the police. And so it's this big chase story, and that part of the book is based on this old story. So that's one thing you can do if you're ever writing. There's so many movies and books and stories that are like a twist on a classic fairy tale or another novel. And so my big twist is that this is set in Thailand. So that's where my dad's family is from. And my dad grew up in this city that's on the river. So the capital city of Bangkok, Thailand is based on the river. It's situated on the river. And so the place where the story takes place, it's fictional, it's fantasy, but it's based on a real place. It's based on Bangkok, Thailand. So you can do that too. Good question.
Emily wants to know if Andy knows he's in your books.
Andy doesn't know. But now we're on a Zoom with like 1,000 people. So maybe he'll find out. No, you know what's so funny is that Andy's mom and my mom are still really good friends, and like I send her a Christmas card every year. But he doesn't know he's in the book, and Andy's not his real name. I feel like he'll never figure it out. He won't remember. He'll be like, "What? Why were you obsessed with my deodorant? Why were you looking at that?"
Heavenly from Wheeler Elementary in Hawaii asked if you have bullies in your books.
I do. Yes. I had a bully, and I put him in the book because that was part of my life when I was in middle school. So, there were a couple kids who would call me names, and they would, say really yucky things to me. And I felt like, okay, if I'm going to write about my middle school life, I got to be honest, and I got to write about these things that happen. I also feel like, when I was in middle school, I really didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about things like racism. I didn't talk about how I was feeling about stuff. It was sort of like a this was, 30 years ago. And there was this attitude of like, oh, it's just something everybody has to deal with. Well, I don't think that, I don't think we get better. We can't expect people to get better, and we can't expect the world to get better if we don't talk about things. That's kind of like the first step, right? So I put all of that in the book, and I hope it helps people think about it and help talk about it and make things better. Good question.
Okay, another question about the book. This is from Mrs. Rainey's Sci-Fi Squirrels of Room 205.
Oh.
They want to know, are you still good friends with Leanne or anyone from the book?
Yes, I am. So in the squad, my best friend was Megan, and then I got this kind of new best friend named Leanne, and we are still very good friends. We're very close. Like I texted them yesterday. Like we just text all the time. And Megan and Leanne still live in Texas, and they have their own families, and they love that they're in the book. So they definitely know. And like I actually like asked them a lot of questions like, what do you remember? Do you remember this or that? And they really helped me with the book. So that's been really, really cool. Good question.
Several students want to know if you have a pet.
I do have a pet. I have a dog named Josie. I bet I could get her to come in here. Let me see if I can get her to come in. Hold on a second. Josie, Josie, come here. Come here. Josie, come here. Come here. Look, come here. All right, can you sit? Sit. Can we see her?
Hi,
That's
Josie.
She's a golden retriever, and she's wet right now because she was rolling in something. If you have dogs, you know that they like to roll in like the stinkiest, grossest thing. And I let her outside, and she rolled in something absolutely disgusting. And so I had to take her. We have a little creek down the road, and I took her there, and she jumped in and swam. So that's why she's a wet dog. There she is.
Let's see. We had a question. What do you like to do in your free time?
In my free time, I really love being outside. So I take Josie for a walk every day. Now, the place where we moved to in Tennessee is a really small town. So there's like a lot of like open places. There's woods and creeks. We feel really lucky that we get to live here. So I like to take her hiking. I love to go swimming, not right now because it's like 30 something degrees outside. But there's a lot of kids from Hawaii who are tuning in, and I lived in Hawaii right after college. I lived there for a year. I lived in Honolulu and learned how to surf, and I love going surfing. So I like doing stuff outdoors. Great question.
Forest North fourth grade wants to know, how did you feel when your book, You Are Here, made the Texas Bluebonnet list? We are reading it right now.
Oh, I'm so glad you're reading it. So You Are Here. Let me see. I've got a copy of it. I'll show you. So this is You Are Here. And oh my gosh, how did I feel when I'm in the Bluebonnet list? Are you kidding? That was the most exciting thing. Because when I was a kid, I grew up reading Bluebonnet books. Like that's how I would discover books, is my librarian would put the Bluebonnet books out. So for those of you who don't know the Bluebonnet list, it's like the Texas state list. So I know a lot of you in your state, the librarians will like choose a list of books that all the kids should read. And those were the ones that I loved to read when I was a kid. And then You Are Here. This is an anthology. So every chapter in the book is written by a different person, and all the stories take place on the same day in an airport. So there's lots of different characters, but they all interact in some way. And my story is the first one. My story is about Paul. And I just was so thrilled because being on the Bluebonnet list is so awesome. And then to share it with like all the authors in the book who are my friends, that's just so cool. Good question.
So Blake wants to know if you like, how did you remember all that stuff from your childhood? Did you have to make anything up, or is every detail true?
I did have to make some stuff up because I couldn't remember some things. But I mean, most of the things, it's really amazing what you can remember, especially if it's something that was like really impactful, like trying out for cheerleader was so scary that I can remember everything. Like I remember what my socks looked like. I remember how the gym smelled. I could like be there, because it was like it was like a life or death experience. So there were things like that I could remember. Of course, like conversations I couldn't remember exactly, and so it was helpful that I was still friends with the people that I went to middle school with because I asked them a lot of questions. I got them to fill in the details. And sometimes you're not going to remember it perfectly, and it's probably some stuff is not the way it was, but that's the way I kind of remember it. Good question.
Are you still into cheerleading?
I mean, I'm like not a cheerleader, but there's a lot of things about cheerleading that I think is really cool. Like it takes so much athleticism. Like if you watch cheerleading competitions, the boys and the girls, because girls and boys, anybody can be a cheerleader. They are just such athletes. Like it's just amazing to watch them. And I think you learn a lot about like being confident and putting yourself out there. It's also a performance. So it's sort of like, being an actor, going out, having to be brave in front of a crowd. So yeah, I'm still into it. Even though, oh my gosh, don't make me do a cheer.
We have a few questions about the Last Mapmaker. The first one was what inspired you to write it? And the second one was from the International School in Bangkok, grade 7. Where is the Last Mapmaker based?
Oh, hello, my Thai friends in Bangkok at the International School. Let me grab the Last Mapmaker. I should have just like I should just bring like all my books. The next time I do this, I'll bring all my books. So the Last Mapmaker, where did I get the idea from it? So the Last Mapmaker is a story about a girl who's an apprentice to a mapmaker. And the mapmaker gets asked to go on this expedition to make a map of an undiscovered continent. And if they can make the map, they will get a prize. And so Sai, my main character, is on this journey, and then once she gets on the ship, there's like all of this intrigue, all this drama, like there's all these secrets and lies, and nobody is who they say they are, and there's lots of twists and turns. But so the way I got the idea for the story is I just really love maps. I always have, and I thought it would be cool to write a story about the people who make them, and even cooler to think about like, well, a long time ago, before they had like satellites and drones and all this map making technology, if somebody made a map and they said that's the way it looked, I mean, you wouldn't know if they were lying, right? They might not have been telling the truth. They could have been making it up. And ooh, isn't that so interesting? Like that's kind of a cool conundrum. And then where the story is completely made up. It's very fictionalized. It's like very fantasy, right? But if, especially for my friends reading from Thailand, I bet you pick up on a lot of things that from Thai culture. So the kingdom of Mackin that Sai lives in is based on Thailand, and Mackin in Thai is dragon. So there's a lot of Thai words in it. I like to pull in a lot of things from Thailand as inspiration for my settings. Because it's just like, why not? It's so cool. It's like the most magical, wonderful place.
Okay, last question from Eagle River fourth graders. What are you working on right now, and can we get a sneak peek?
What am I working on right now? Can I give you a sneak peek? You know what? I could, but it would be boring because so the thing I'm working on right now is a graphic novel. I'm working on a third graphic novel. So there is going to be the tryout and the squad, and there's going to be a third one. And so the third graphic novel is going to be called The Break, and it takes place in high school. And the thing that happened to me in high school is that I broke my leg so bad. Like I broke it in half. I was on jumping on a trampoline and I broke my leg really, really badly. And I had to miss all this school and I had to have these surgeries and like it just was this major life event. And of course, also lots of funny things happened to me and there was also lots of other embarrassing, ridiculous things that happened to me that's going to happen in the break. And so that's what I'm working on now.
Okay, so we're out of time, but I just want to give everyone the opportunity to go over to the chat and tell Christina anything you want to tell her, because I will take the whole chat and I'll send it to her right after this. So if you want to say thank you or anything about your school or which book you love, go do that. And then Christina, is there anything you want to say to all the students watching right now?
Oh my gosh, just thank you so much for watching and for reading. And I just hope that you keep reading all types of books. There's really nothing better. So thank you to you. And everyone, can you please just turn around, look at your teacher or your librarian and say, thank you, you're the best because they made this happen today for us. So thank you so much to all the educators out there.
Yes, 100%. All right. Well, thank you all for the amazing questions. I could not do this without you. You guys are so good at this. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you, Christina. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Kaya. Bye, everybody.